Hi, everyone. I'd like to do a shout out to our sponsor, Baco Diagnostics. Early detection is the single most important factor in improving patient outcomes. The Baco Diagnostics team recognizes how impactful a podiatric physician can be and remains committed to supporting you in your role as the first line of defense in diagnosing conditions of the lower extremity. Thanks to the unwavering support of our clients, Baco Diagnostics has been able to give back to the podiatric community for 16 years by providing podiatric educational resources and advocating for the profession. Baco Diagnostics, helping podiatric physicians keep America on its feet. If you have not yet had the opportunity to utilize Baco Diagnostics services, get started today by sending an email to corporaterelations@bacodx.com. The first 50 podiatry offices who request a starter kit will receive a Dean's Chat mug. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Dean's Chat, where we discuss all things podiatric medicine. My name is Dr. Jeffrey Jensen, and whether you're watching on YouTube or listening on Spotify or Apple, thank you so much for joining us. Once again, I'm with my co-host, Dr. Joanna Ritchie. Hi, Joe.
Hey, Jeff. How you doing?
I'm doing fabulous. I'm fresh off a week shooting in the Sporting Clays National Championships.
Yeah. And how did it go? I heard you had some really good beneficiaries too that were.
We did. It went well. It's kind of like golf, sometimes there's moments of brilliance and other times you wonder why you're doing it, but it's all good. I'm glad to be back. How are you doing?
Good to hone those skills. Keeps you sharp. I am trying to will the weather with my sweater and a scarf today. It's 88 degrees, but I'm feeling the vibe of fall. So
very good. Well, we have another wonderful episode with students today. Just so you all know, what we're trying to do is offer bonus episodes on a weekly basis, highlighting each of the schools or colleges of podiatric medicine. And today we have representatives from the Barry University School of Podiatric Medicine. I'd like to just take a minute and introduce each of you, and then we'll get rolling. Representing the class of 2026, Maddy Word. Welcome to Dean's Chat, Maddy.
Thank you, and thanks for having me. I've been looking forward to it.
You're so welcome. And also from the class of 2026, Malachi Brown. Welcome, Malachi.
Pleasure being here. Thank you for the invitation.
You're welcome. Thank you. And representing the class of 2027, Justin Martinez. Welcome to Dean's Chat, Justin.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you guys all today.
Well, thank you for having us. Joe, I'll turn it over.
Well, we are so excited to have you guys here. I know you can relate to the 88-degree weather. It's probably a little bit cooler at this point, but not by too much, I would suspect. But first, we'll start. We would like each of these episodes to stand kind of independently so that any prospective students that are interested in podiatric medicine want to know what that is. We kind of give some baseline definitions to work with. So Malachi, if you don't mind defining podiatric medicine for us so that the audience can kind of come along with us on this journey.
Yeah, of course. So podiatric medicine is a medical specialty that focuses on the diagnosis, treatment, and prevention of any foot, leg, and ankle conditions. And a podiatrist is a medical professional that will clinically, surgically, or conservatively treat these conditions.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you. And Maddy, do you mind sharing the educational pathway to becoming a podiatrist?
Yeah, of course. So the pathway to becoming a podiatrist starts by getting your college degree, and it does not have to be a specific science degree, but it does have to require the basic gen eds to apply at a podiatry school, and those gen eds are the ones that are also required to take the MCAT. So you take the MCAT, you have extracurriculars, and the required courses to podiatry school, as well as when you apply, having a required letter of rec from a podiatrist. And then after that, you complete your 4 years of podiatry school, and then a 3-year surgical residency, and then an optional fellowship.
Very good. Thank you.
All right. So this is the fun part. We're going to kind of transition a little bit into each of your individual stories. So Justin, we'll start with you. And if you can tell us a little bit about where you did your undergrad and what your degree was in, how you discovered podiatric medicine, and what your shadowing experience was like.
Yeah, so I actually went to Ursinus College in Collegeville, Pennsylvania, where my major was biochemistry and molecular biology. I had a great experience. I loved every second of it. And it definitely shaped me where I'm at today at Barry. And afterwards, I completed my Master's of Biomedical Sciences at Rowan University Graduate School of Biomedical Sciences. That was a 2-year program. Again, it definitely that's another program that really prepped me for going into Barry because as Maddy mentioned before, you have to complete a lot of prereqs or base courses, and so once you get into here, they are challenging, but definitely alleviated and allowed me to get a better understanding at Barry. In terms of my shadowing experience, I know I was on the kind of MD-DO route for a while, because I wasn't aware of podiatry at that moment. Even in my undergrad, it was very much promoted to, okay, you're going to go to med school, but that's all I knew. And not until I progressed into my education did I actually learn more, obviously, of how the medical field really works. And so I graduated through undergrad, still wanted to go to MD-DO program. Not until my graduate program at Rowan was my last year, with my advisor mentioned, have you ever thought about going into podiatry school? And I wasn't even sure that that was like a separate avenue. And I think a lot of undergrad students aren't aware of that. And that's actually, we're going to talk about it later, but I was actually amazed at the opportunity that's in the field of podiatry. And so then I began to shadow. But one podiatrist I definitely want to shadow. There's so many. But Dr. Willie Murray from South Jersey, he's a doctor for Cornerstone Foot and Ankle. He's definitely motivated me. I still shadow him to this day. Though I go to school in Barry anytime I can go back, I shoot him a text, hey, can I come shadow? Because the reaction of all his patients, every single one of his patients, they always say, you are learning from the best, and I'm honored. And I think it's just to see that they're always leaving with a smile on their face, or always, they're leaving either with pain or they're given treatment plans that can actually help them out and prolong their life. And I think what really motivated me to kind of progress with podiatry is knowing that a lot of these families that he's helping, they're able to celebrate important moments in their family's lives. And it's just watching the smiles off their faces. Hopefully I strive to be just like him and continue to learn more from him as well. So that's kind of my journey and why I'm very passionate about podiatric medicine.
Thank you so much. That's a great story. Malachi, we'll switch to you. Tell us a little bit about your undergrad, how you discovered podiatric medicine, and your shadowing experience.
Yeah, of course. So I attended Florida International University. Pause up for all my Panthers or any Panthers watching. I got my degree in psychology and interdisciplinary studies. So as my classmate Maddy mentioned, I got a non-scientific degree, but I still fulfilled my prereqs while taking the courses. And at my time at FIU, I was involved in some pre-health organization leaderships. Not much research, but very big on community service and clinical work. Similar to Justin, I was on the MD-DO route since I was probably, I want to say like middle school. I knew I wanted to be in the healthcare field very, very early on. I was raised by a single mom, so she was a superhero in my eyes, as well as spending summers with my grandmother, and she was a very servant leader. So I think those two personality types kind of molded me wanting to help people, but also not just in a medical setting, but kind of out in the community. So medicine just fit like a perfect role because I do believe as physicians, we have a clinical duty, but also a social one, a humanitarian duty as well. So it just fit perfectly. So back to my time at FIU, I was working at a clinic at the time, and the doctor just mentioned one time, like, oh, why don't you look into podiatry? And I didn't know what that was. I was 17, 18 working in a clinic, and he just mentioned like, oh, you're a foot doctor. That was it. And I was like, oh, okay, like, cool. Like that was the only information. Then another doctor was like, oh, like, so you just want to clip toenails? And that was the only impression I had. So of course I'm like, oh my God, like, no. Like, I want to be a surgeon. Like, how dare you even recommend that? Very just unaware of what the field was. And as I continue my pre-health journey, I'm still on the MD-DO route, still doing the shadowing, the research, the community service, all these things, because I just have, one goal in mind. And then as I'm doing my research, I'm not loving the climate of the match residency rates, right? People go in thinking they're going to do a certain specialty and kind of coming out doing something different. That was a big thing that I didn't know when it came to being a doctor. I thought you said, oh, I want to be a surgeon. You're a surgeon. I didn't know about MD versus DO, the match rates. Some people finish med school and they don't even have a residency after. Very just scary things right before I was getting in, and it wasn't aligning with where I saw myself. And somehow the universe heard me because I got a email from Temple University for their podiatry winter internship. And I was like, okay, let's check it out. Why not? I'm in my gap year. Let's go for it. It was during COVID and it was online. But they were winning me over. The podiatrists that were speaking, the speakers that they had, it just was aligning with what I saw in my future. But I didn't let that convince me all the way, right? Because what we see online is not what we see in person. So I went and I shadowed a doctor. Shout out to Dr. Malachi if she's watching this, and watching her in action, seeing her go from room to room. When I left there, I left feeling the same way when I shadowed a dermatologist, an orthopedic surgeon, a plastic surgeon, but now this time it was in one office. And I was like, oh gosh, okay, like I'm kind of loving this. I didn't think, because I went in thinking feet, and yes, it is feet, but the feet are attached to a whole body, a whole person, which comes with a whole host of other things. So from there, I was like, okay, the clinical portion, check mark. But I do like being involved in leadership. I do like research. I do see myself working in the community still somehow. So I wanted to make sure that those avenues were still available while I was in med school, but also after. And even coming on to, I'm not sure if Dean's Chat was around at the time, but just going on different YouTube channels, Instagram, wherever I could find, just seeing where people were involved, and I was able to see it. So I withdrew my MD/DO applications. I applied to podiatry programs, and we got in. So that's how we came to be now in 2024.
That's wonderful. And I do not believe we were around just based on where you are in your classes, maybe just a few episodes that maybe Dr. Jensen had released, but I think we were still very much under the radar. So, all right, Maddy, we're going to switch to you. Tell us a little bit about your undergrad, how you discovered podiatric medicine, and what your shadowing experience was like.
Okay, so I'm going to start from actually when I was young. I've always had a very strong passion for health and for fitness. I've grown up playing mini sports and still to this day I'm very active. And I always just had a draw of I want to help people and I want to do something related to health and fitness. So growing up, I was very fortunate. My dad is actually a podiatrist, Dr. Matt Word. And ever since I was young and in high school, I would go into his office after work and do whether it was front desk work or whenever we're transitioning from paper charts to online charts and sorting all the x-rays out, spending hours in the attic getting those down. I've always been in his office. Then as I got older, still I always knew MD, DO, I wanted to apply and do something in the health field. So I started at Florida State University and I majored in interdisciplinary medical sciences, which was through their College of Medicine. And I absolutely loved their program. We had seminars every semester where we had speakers come in from all different professions telling us how to take the MCAT, extracurriculars to get involved with. One of our speakers was actually the teacher for a CMA course, Certified Medical Assistants. So I got my CMA in college as well. And I had multiple leadership positions and did other volunteering at different hospitals, but the CMA I found most impactful because I was able to use that at urgent cares as well as podiatry offices. And I know whenever I would go home, I got to really work one-on-one with patients as a CMA, removing sutures and being hands-on with these podiatric patients. They would always ask me though, do you want to do podiatry? And I was always like, I don't know. I know, as Malachi was saying, feet. And I was like, I don't know if I want to do feet. And it's crazy to me how much I had grown up, with my dad and being in his office, but that I didn't truly really understand the field still. So I graduated and I was planning to do a gap year. I had already taken the MCAT and I had everything, all my extracurriculars, but I was like, I'm not exactly sure where I'm going to go, what I'm going to do. And then I was like, why did I not apply podiatry? Honestly, I didn't even know it was a separate application cycle. And that's saying a lot given my dad and how involved he is. So I applied immediately. And I want to mention, I was at Florida State and the word podiatry was mentioned once all of my college career, which was just crazy to me. And it even is still. I know actually podiatrists now are going and speaking at colleges. So I think that's a great thing that they're doing. But I applied immediately. I think it was a couple of days after I graduated, and I had interviews at a few schools, and I decided to do it because I've always wanted to do, as I mentioned earlier, sports medicine and orthopedic. And it was and surgery. And it was kind of just the best of both worlds, as I was like, well, I'm doing all of that just at the lower extremity. And I know there is more to it than the surgery and sports medicine. It's the entire multiple systems in the leg, and it's not just the foot. It's more than that, the ankle, the lower leg. So I was like, why am I not doing this? And I could not be happier with my decision. I know the work-life balance, like I've got to see it firsthand. My dad's never missed any of my events. He's always been there, and it's the family of podiatry, whenever going to meetings now even, it's been a very rewarding experience.
Thank you so much. Yeah, Jeff, we've talked about this when there's legacy students, and there's something about that. I'm a mom now, and having something, if you didn't love what you do, you wouldn't recommend it for your kids to get involved because you know the details and the ins and outs of it. And I think it's so inspiring that we have, we've interviewed lots of different people with legacy families. So thank you so much for sharing all that, Maddy.
What's the last thing I want to add? What's been nice too is I was never forced into it or pushed into it. Like I wasn't even told apply specifically podiatry. He really let me find my path on my own, and I'm thankful it led me to where it did. But it shows how much podiatry opened up my mind, and I appreciate it being in the field.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's fabulous. A couple notes there. One is that times haven't changed. I remember when I was applying to podiatry school, I had not had podiatry mentioned in my pre-health courses or pre-med curriculum. And then also, I didn't realize that it was a separate application process. I had no idea. Our family had a podiatrist in Madison, Wisconsin, and he did surgery on my mom and for bunions, and he treated all the athletes for orthotics. I never had any idea that it was different from an MD or DO. So times haven't really changed, but hopefully they will. You're right. A lot of efforts going to colleges around the country, exposing advisors to podiatric medicine, and hopefully we'll see more and more students going into our field. So that's great. Thank you for sharing your stories. I want to shift gears just a little bit. The three of you are leaders at the Barry University School of Podiatric Medicine. You represent the American Podiatric Medical Students Association. I was hoping each of you could just take a couple minutes and talk about how you got involved with the APMSA and what your responsibilities are working with the APMSA. Malachi, do you mind starting?
Sure. So I actually serve as the Florida Podiatrics Medical Student Association / student body president. And with that role, just as it sounds, I'm the student body president, not of the main campus, but of our program specifically. And with that, one of my responsibilities is being part of the APMSA's president committee. So what that is specifically is the president-elect and the president of each respective podiatric program sitting on the committee together and just talking about the different curriculums that's going on in each program, any extracurriculars or initiatives that we have, any issues going on too, right? Because we're serving our students. So if there's something that a fellow president can help me out with or vice versa, that's where we go. And then aside from the president's committee, I do sit as a representative for my school at the House of Delegates. And what that setting is just being very well versed on the field of podiatry, I would say, whether it's the board certifications, what's going on in academics at the residency level, student level, or even student recruitment, and much more. I won't talk too much about that because we do have our APMSA delegates here, so I won't take the shine away from that. But that's how I got involved with the APMSA, and I'm very fortunate because of opportunities like this, networking and socializing with other classmates and other programs, building that camaraderie. And, these are going to be our colleagues in the future. So,
absolutely, it's a small profession. You're going to know everybody forever.
Very small, and it's very inspiring being around like-minded individuals in the APMSA. I've come back like wanting to revamp everything. It's very, very inspiring.
That's great. Maddy, can you share with us how you got involved with APMSA and what your current responsibilities are?
Yeah, so first year, we have elections at Barry, usually in October, November-ish. I know they're about to come up again for the class of 2028. So we had elections and we attend 2 meetings a year. So we have our midwinter meeting and then we have our summer meeting. And as of last year, our midwinter meeting, they're in conjunction with ACFAS, and our summer is in conjunction with the APMA Nationals. It's always an awesome time to be able, as Malachi said, to network and get to know all the other students from other schools. But as the class of 2026 delegate for APMSA, I represent my class on a national level to the rest of the podiatric medical field. We have different liaisons who represent different organizations to the APMSA. And something that I actually did is whenever I joined, I was looking through liaisons and seeing what positions were open to run for that year. And I was curious because I didn't see a sports med liaison for American Academy of Podiatric Sports Medicine. So I started immediately at my first meeting talking to our executive director for APMSA and asking the steps to try to install this position. After that, I got home from that meeting and immediately contacted APSM's executive director, Rita Yates, and we got the ball rolling. So by my second meeting, it was in Nashville in conjunction with the APMA Nationals. I presented a resolution, which I had drafted up from the past couple months of this new position. And thankfully, this resolution passed. We had this new AAPSM national liaison position installed. And then at the next meeting for I think it was midwinter, it was in conjunction with ACFES in Tampa. I ran for the position and I did get this position. So I represent the AAPSM. I am the national student liaison. So I've really enjoyed that. My passion is sports medicine. I was very glad that I'm able to make a lasting impact on APMSA by having this position. And as well as it's AAPSM is one of the third largest organizations that we have for podiatry. So I thought it was very important to have this position. And besides that, I'm also on the communications committee where we write our quarterly footnotes magazine. So APMSA has really just been a blessing. I've loved every moment of it, and I've been so grateful to have this position.
You're a prime example of the best way to predict the future is to create it. Great work, Maddy.
Thank you.
And a shout out to your executive director, Marit. She's fabulous, Marit Syvertson. So shout out to Marit.
She was very helpful with my resolution. She would meet with me and go through it and kind of be like, I think we should tweak this so that the House approves of it. And we went back and forth for a lot of things and got it accomplished. So I was very grateful.
Congratulations. That's fabulous.
Thank you.
All right, Justin, how did you find out about APMSA and what are your current responsibilities?
Yeah, so I'm currently the class of 2027 APMSA delegate for Barry. Just like Maddy mentioned, there were elections that were taking place in the fall of the first semester. Very similar to how our meetings are ran biannually that we have at APMSA. We give a speech in front of our class, which I do really appreciate because it gives our class an idea of who's going to be representing them at these different conferences. And so in terms of our meetings that we do talk about different legislative rules. How can we implement kind of different, I guess, changes in a positive way in regards to maybe recruitment for podiatry. Again, we sit with the other delegates as well as our FPMSA president, and then we discuss we vote on certain policies that kind of happen. And again, that kind of teamwork and camaraderie is kind of what makes the APMSA so very welcoming. Because not only Barry, of course, we have our other other schools that are part of it as well. And so it's definitely a great opportunity to connect with other schools. I know sometimes we can get lost in learning about the school or learning in school and exams and being busy with classes. And APMSA gives you the opportunity to know that, okay, there's a life outside of the school. There's podiatry. You can network with other podiatrists. You get to also see how other schools are doing as well. And you see there are a lot of similarities and there are some differences as well. But one thing that is very similar is that everyone's very passionate that's there. I know being a part of APMSA, a lot of the members are leaders at each of their schools. And so when you get to connect and talk about different ideas, they're very open and very transparent. And so we also want to see how can we make positive changes in the right way. And so, like I mentioned before, APMSA has been such a great opportunity. I know I can't stress enough in terms of just like connections. And like I mentioned before, I wasn't aware of how far podiatry can actually go in terms of awareness. I was just mentioned to this in my graduate program, but now that I'm actually part of APMSA, there's always again, networks, connections, and there's so much opportunity out there that people aren't aware of. And along with being the class of 2027 delegate for Barry, I'm actually part of the education committee. And I love every second about being a part of the education committee because we gather together and we discuss, for example, our externship surveys. So we gather a lot of surveys from fourth years, um, and it kind of provide kind of information for people who are going to do their externships, make sure that's kind of a source and an outlet so they are aware of where they can really where they feel like they'll be most connected to when they do their externships. And I guess going also below, the grade below, you have to take our board exams. So we do formulate a kind of this data that it comes from all the students that complete the APMLE Board 1 exam. And we kind of gather all the different resources, all the information, and kind of gather it all together and make sure we can provide more information to first and second years as they prepare for their the Board 1, step 1. And so again, just being part of the education committee, it's really helpful. And I think it also shows how much of a team this really is. Make sure that we really want everyone to pass, but also be knowledgeable of kind of what's new and what to be aware of and how to kind of progress into being a successful podiatrist. So
Thank you. It's no wonder APMSA reps are fabulous. I will tell a quick story. So when I used to be the clerkship director at the North Colorado residency program, it was no accident that we ended up with residents that were APMSA reps in the past. I mean, they were active, they were energetic, they were creative, they took initiative. So Joe, as always, I think our profession's in good hands with wonderful leaders like we have here today.
Yeah, isn't it fun, Jeff? I love talking to our students across the nation, and I think this has been such a fun initiative for us to help share with the world some of the unique things about each of the individual universities. And everyone has their own story about what inspired you and lack of awareness in certain cases. And so I just think it's really exciting, and we really appreciate you guys coming. We'll transition. And actually, Justin, that was a beautiful segue for me when you started talking a little bit about the educational component of school. And so each of you has volunteered to take 1 year of your curriculum at Barry University and help kind of break down what a student could expect. So Justin, we're going to go back to you. You'll be the first year, if you don't mind kind of breaking down what kind of courses you take, which ones are maybe if there's opportunities for interdisciplinary learning, if you have any combined classes with other programs, what that looks like, and kind of what the class size typically looks like.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So like I mentioned, I'm class 2027, so it wasn't too far along where I completed my first year. I would definitely say it is rigorous, but I can positively say I don't know if I've ever learned so much in 1 year. And I can definitely say, and that's no downplay, obviously, to my previous schools I've attended, my undergrad and master's, but it's just the way they teach at Barry University that they make sure that you're prepared for obviously when you take your Board 1 exams. So as a first year, you come in and you start with kind of general anatomy, and then that's also taken with a lab. And so that is pretty much what takes most of your time, because you're spending 3 days for sure in lab, and then we also offer open lab, which students who want to practice more will go in and prepare for just further understanding. And so you take your general anatomy course, and then we also do provide biochemistry 1, and then we also do have a histology course as well, and that's offered with a lab. And so again, that's really understanding how molecules work, and then how to identify different structures, and then and later on, especially me being my second year, I'm taking courses where a lot of this foundational learning is playing a major role into what I'm learning today. And I'm just a second year, so I can only imagine how it's going to benefit me as I progress throughout my podiatric journey. But going back to the curriculum, after biochemistry, histology, and general anatomy, we do offer an intro to patient care course, which is very helpful for students who are new to the podiatry field. I know many people who apply, they have an idea, but you can only think of how something is going to happen, but you don't really know for certain how it's going to work out. And so this course really introduces you to how it is to be a podiatrist, and then what to expect. And so it's definitely a great course to kind of introduce you to what it is to be a podiatric physician. And so that's one course that I'm very excited that I did take. I know I'm going to use a lot of skills that I've learned as I progressed through my 4 years. And then for the last course that we did take for our fall semester was our research and epidemiology course. Research is very much emphasized at Barry, and we encourage a lot of students to kind of get active into research. I currently am part of research as well, and like this is kind of side topic, but these opportunities of research and which kind of push forward, we are able to present at different conferences where we do go, and we get to realize how big the field of podiatry is and the advancements that are coming forth. Um, for example, like fish grafts or stuff like that. Like that almost seems so foreign, but as you are progressing into research, you realize how you know advanced this field has really become. And so again, not stay away from or get away from the fall curriculum. That pretty much completes the fall curriculum. It is very vigorous work. But again, there are a lot of helpful resources. Like we do offer tutors and TAs, and a lot of teachers are very much available at all times. I know I'll talk about him later, but our anatomy professor, he's available 25/8. You shoot an email at 1 o'clock in the morning, he's like, I'm this is the answer. I said, why aren't you sleeping? But it's okay. But it's again the professors for first semester are very passionate. As well as I go into the second semester into our fall, we complete physiology one. I mean, excuse me, in the spring semester we complete physiology one, and then we complete neuroanatomy, and then we do a full semester of just lower extremity focus. And so as mentioned before, that general anatomy focuses on every other organ system aside for lower extremity. We devote a whole entire semester for it. And I think it's for the better. Obviously, this is our profession. We need to be specialists at this. And so, again, it's still very rigorous work. And you realize you know every little detail about everything. And it's very helpful. And then you get to also realize how interconnected all the different systems are. And though you're a podiatrist and you're specializing in lower extremity, you also got to realize how a certain condition with your foot can be affected through your heart or other organ systems. So it's definitely a eye-opening experience. And so I mentioned before, so in our spring semester, we take Physio 1, Neuroanatomy, our lower extremity, and then we also take Biochemistry 2, which is more focused on nutrition. I also find it very fascinating because Biochemistry 1 is more the foundational, and then Biochemistry 2 more of the nutrition, how our daily diets really affect how, how we could treat how patients endure certain diseases, disorders, and how we need to kind of better understand that. And so, like I said, now I'm going into my second year, and I feel as prepared as ever. I think it's definitely prepared me, especially as I go into shadowing and whatnot. I go in to see the podiatrist, or I go to, like I mentioned, Dr. Murray, and I realize how much, I guess you say, wiser I've gotten since over a year. And it's insane how much a year can really change. And so that's typically the first year curriculum.
Thank you. And you're right. It's so incredible how much information just from 1 year and over the next 7, or 6, I guess now, how it's just going to keep being every year. You're going to be like, wow, I know so much more now than I did last year. With all of those different courses, are any of them combined? Or are they all just the podiatry group that goes through those courses?
Yep. So they're all just a podiatric group. I mean, you do take them all together. There's a separate schedule, but there's not how can I say, not interdiscipline with another one. You're just taking these courses all as a semester based.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Mhm.
All right, Malachi, you offered to do the second year for us. So if you can talk a little bit about what the curriculum looks like over the course of the whole second year in terms of classes.
Yeah, no problem. So at Barry University, I'm not sure about the other programs, but you are considered like a next year, that's summer. So first year is fall and spring, and then by summer, you're a second year. And now we're building on these foundation courses, and we're moving a little bit more into the clinical realm. So in summer, we're taking med micro, we're taking clinical neuro, we're taking biomechanics, and we're taking physiology too, right? So we're still building, still not only clinical, like it's a mix. From there, we go to fall. And I would say that this is kind of where that learning curve happens because you are doubled in the amount of courses and they are a little bit more clinically focused. So we're taking courses like pathology, pharmacology, med micro 2, our first podiatric medicine course, which believe it or not, for any future prospective students, it's not like podiatry focus, if that makes sense. Like we still talked about nails and foot things, but it was still very much whole body centered, which I personally liked. We're taking general anatomy, so same thing, head to toe. Now we're taking biomechanics of the foot. So we're taking those skills from biomechanics 1 and honing into the lower extremity. And there's also a lab portion there, which we're honing into our casting skills, or taping skills, orthotic skills, very hands-on, very biomechanically sports med based. And then in spring, same thing, you're still building on these courses, and now you're taking part twos for some of them. So we're taking pathology 2, physical diagnosis with the lab, and once again, similar to the other courses, this is head to toe. I think we probably spent like half of the lecture on the lower extremity, and the rest was focused on everything else, along with that lab portion. Now we're taking clinical pharmacology. So we learned what the drugs are. Now we're learning how to apply them to specific patients and specific conditions. We're taking surgical principles. So the very foundation of going into the OR, learning how to prep, learning the instruments, and so on. We're taking internal medicine 1. So this one I would say was probably a heavy hitter because it has your physiology 1, it has your pharmacology 1 from the semester before, it has your path. So kind of a combined course. You have your podiatric medicine 2 course, which is now a little bit more focused on the lower extremity, but still talking about systemic conditions. You're taking podiatric radiology, so a little bit more of a focused course, along with that lab portion. And the reason I keep going back to like head to toe versus lower extremity, and that's the conclusion of our second year. And the reason I keep going back to the head to toe versus lower extremity is because to our future students, I thought it was only going to be like, oh, foot down. No. You can't be a physician and you can't be a surgeon without knowing head to toe, and that's exactly how it should be. And even some of my classmates in general anatomy, or gross anatomy, like Justin was saying, we were thrown all the way off. We were like, oh, like it is anatomy. But like I said, this is how it should be. We are future physicians, future surgeons. So it's very, very systemic based. I see that the courses tend to overlap with one another. So what we learned in Pod Med 1 came up in Internal Med 1. And now we're seeing that on the radiographs and podiatric radiology. So very full circle. The connections are being made, right? The neurons are synapsing. So it's very cool. It is a lot of courses, but it was very interesting because you are kind of halfway between clinical and halfway between like the basic sciences. So I enjoyed second year.
Thank you so much. All right, Maddy, you get to get both third and fourth year. Kind of tell us a little bit about, we'll start with third year and then you can venture into what fourth year looks like at Barry.
Yep. So the start of third year, as Malachi had mentioned, is actually in the summer for us. So our third year started back in May. And for us, third years, that is board studying. So we had our boards in July, but at Barry, while we are studying for boards, we are also in classes. So Barry, we take lower extremity anatomy again. It's as a boards review course, and this was one of the most helpful things when it came to boards. It was fully being taught again by our professor that we did have first year in the spring for lower extremity. He came and taught us again, as well as he would do gross anatomy boards reviews for us. So that was one of our classes. And then we took internal medicine 2. And then we took emergency trauma. And then we also took medical Spanish because being in Miami, you do need to learn some Spanish to be in these clinics. So that was our third year, and we had boards, and then a couple weeks after boards were our final exams. I wouldn't say these classes were as heavy as other semesters because I think teachers do take into consideration your studying, but the lower extremity was pretty heavy, but that's because it was helping you study. And then we actually get a break off in August, and then we have our white coat the end of August, which is very, very rewarding. I will say after finishing boards and, working so hard your first 2 years, being able to take that next step and get that white coat, it feels like a huge step in your journey. Especially, I know during board studying, whenever we even got sized for our white coat, I was like, wow, this studying it's going to pay off soon. So that kind of started our fall semester of third year was getting that white coat. And then at Barry, what we do is 2 days of classes and then 3 days of clinic. So our 2 days of classes for fall semester, we are taking peripheral vascular disease, podiatric surgery 1, anesthesia podiatric medicine 3, podiatric podopeds, and dermatology. I think I got them all. So we're taking those Monday, Tuesday, and then Wednesday through Friday, or sometimes there's some weekend days you have to work. You are in a different clinic every month. These clinics can range from internal medicine, they could be radiology, emergency room, podiatric community clinic, one of very specific podiatric clinics, residency rounds, interventional radiology, plastics, general surgery. There's a whole bunch. But every month you are on a different rotation for those 3 days of your week. So far, I've gotten to do internal medicine, radiology, and I just finished at the ER, which we are required to work a couple night shifts and weekends. And I think Malachi actually was just at the ER too last month. But
Yesterday was my last shift, actually.
yeah, those were some interesting hours, I will say. But we are learning so much in clinics. And with clinics, we also have to do a certain amount of SOAP notes every time. So we're practicing our documenting, and we do presentations throughout it and journal clubs, and a few other like DEI and required things throughout the month. So not only are we learning in the clinic, but we're learning outside of the clinic as well. So I feel like already since I started clinics back in September that I have learned a great deal. And that is how the rest of our third year will go. Next semester, I know we take classes like emergency trauma 2, medical psychiatry, biomedical ethics, physical medicine, sports medicine, podiatric surgery 2, podiatric surgery 4, risk management, and community medicine. And there might be a couple more. There's kind of a lot next semester, but Barry does a good job of some of the classes we're taking just the first half of the semester and some in the second. So we are getting a lot of our classes completed. So that is third year, and one more component to it. During your fall semester of third year, you're also applying for externships. And that's a big thing that we have been focusing on the past few weeks. And I know round 1 and round 2 have already come out, but those are during your third year fall, you apply for your externship starting in May of your fourth year. So that's another thing to kind of keep an eye out for is it comes up on you for somehow the time flies by, but to keep your options open and to kind of start doing research from the start whenever you're in school. If you hear a residency mentioned, ask questions. If you meet someone from a program, like it's never too early. I think that's a big piece of advice. It's never too early to start to take mental notes and to learn more. And then we get into fourth year as I'm transitioning from externships. Our fourth year, for Barry specifically, we do externships from May until December. So our first externship, again, starts in May. And of those externships, we have 1 month that is required to be a BUSPM home clinic. So you get to give our clinical dean our top 3 preferences in which month we would like to be our home clinic. For example, mine is October. So in October, I will be working at a Barry clinic. So I don't apply for an externship that month. It's strictly clinical based work at whatever clinic I am assigned. And then along with that month, we also get 1 month off. And a lot of students like to use that month to study for our boards part 2, which we take fourth year in, I believe it's January. We take boards part 2. So that kind of transitions us all the way through externships, summer, fall of fourth year, and then start of spring fourth year. We take those boards and we do our residency interviews, I believe also end of January, early February-ish. And you apply for those interviews, however, sorry, there's so many different dates. You apply for those interviews back in October while you are doing your externships. So then you have those interviews, and for Barry, what we do for the spring of our fourth year is we come back to Miami and we do a few more clinical rotations throughout Barry clinics and have a couple classes that they have us do. But we finish up our 4th year, those January through April back in Miami here. I know there was a lot that goes around from 3rd to 4th year and important to externships, residencies, in classes, but all these classes are really contributing as well to our clinics that we're on now. I know, especially peripheral vascular disease, the class that we're in, I didn't realize how much when I was even in the ER, how many PVD cases that I saw. So that was just one, for example, but they correlate very well to what you are learning in clinics during your 3rd year.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Well done. That is a thorough overview of Barry's curriculum. Thank you very much. All right. So one of our favorite sections of doing these interviews is professor shout-outs. Malachi, we're going to go first with you. Can you shout out to a professor at Barry that's made a tremendous impact on your educational experience?
Honestly, there's so many good ones. I know that's such a basic answer. I'm going to go with Dr. Chabib, which is our pharmacology professor. Um, so kind of an insider, we kind of call her like Farm Queen, just because she explains these crazy topics in the most simplest way. She breaks down things to like the molecule quite literally. I think pharmacology is also one of those topics or one of those classes that you hear is like very big on boards, important while you're practicing. So of course you kind of have those fears, like it's not like a filler class to say, but she just made it so wonderful. I thoroughly enjoyed the course. That was one thing, or not one thing, but when I was in my last ER rotation, any farm question that came up, I was just like no thought, just a flow from how well she taught. It was also very nice having a Pharm D, so a pharmacist, teach us the subjects of what we're learning. So shout out to Dr. Shabib.
Thank you. Maddy, your professor shout out at Barry.
Yes, mine. There's a few that I like to say, but I'm going to go with Dr. Azari. He was our gross anatomy and lower extremity anatomy professor, as well as that board's review lower extremity anatomy professor. I believe that anatomy contributes to every single class you will take in podiatry school. You've got to know your anatomy and you've got to know it well. I was able to be one of his teaching assistants, as I know Justin is as well this year, and getting to work with him pretty much on a daily and learn from him and just really grasp that knowledge of anatomy contributed greatly so far to my profession in podiatry.
Thank you. And Justin, professor shout out at Barry.
There's so like, I mean, there's so many. I have to say Dr. Sherson Cuffey, he's currently my professor for our podiatric medicine 1 course, and he is just very down to earth and keeps it very obviously professional. I've actually been able to shadow him as well, and whenever I'm in his office, he just tells me kind of how obviously how to treat patients, kind of the story of how he kind of got into podiatric medicine and how kind of his drive. And that's kind of he just shows that he's really a man of hard work, very passionate in the field. And it shows as though he's teaching my course now and teaching information, but that actually goes way more just outside of Barry itself. And just learning that from him, we just be able to kind of prepare and just being able to know that there is a vast world out there with opportunity. And that I have to thank Dr. Sherton Cuffey. So
Dr. Cuffey's amazing. He's a great professor. Thank you all. So I also want to do a quick shout out to our sponsor, Baco Diagnostics. We all know that early detection is the most important determination in improving patient outcomes. Baco Diagnostics remains committed to supporting you in your role as the first line of defense in diagnosing lower extremity pathologies. Baco Diagnostics, helping podiatric physicians keep America on its feet. We always love to do a Baco shout out. So we're running a little short on time, so I was hoping we could get one more question in. Why Barry University? You had lots of options, right? There's 11 schools and colleges of podiatric medicine. Why did each of you choose Barry University? Let's start with you, Justin.
Yep. So when I was in my graduate program, I was applying to various podiatric schools. But Barry caught my eye for sure. I actually went to visit all my schools that I was interested in because I wanted to be sure that, okay, this is the school where I will be trying to study medicine for 4 years. I need to get the full feel of how it would be on campus And I knew just I was dealing with admissions. Obviously, admissions they wanted to come in, of course. But Dr. Dave Fletcher, I'm sure Maddy and Malachi, I don't know. He's awesome what he does. He's able to promote Barry in such a good way, and the fact that I was able to, even to this day, I still, be able to experience what he mentioned. Obviously, as I went into Barry, in terms of just the opportunity to going to labs, kind of working with for anatomy like cadavers and working with TA, working with different professors. I mean, not just us specifically anatomy, but all the courses, all the professors are very helpful in that manner, and he emphasized that as well. And then he, I think just being a part of Barry itself, when I was there, it just felt very welcoming. Obviously, you have Miami, you get to enjoy the nice weather, obviously, but you got to know that you're going there to study podiatric medicine. And I think what really drove me was just knowing how close the professors and students were. And that knowing that the end goal obviously isn't just to graduate Barry for 4 years, but to be a professional and a excellent podiatrist outside of Barry. And so I felt like that was here, and I believe that is still true.
Fantastic. Thank you. Malachi, why did you choose Barry University?
So originally, I actually am from Miami. So being able to stay and be around my community was automatically like kind of a pusher towards the top of the list. But aside from that, I would say the cultural and clinical diversity we have. As I mentioned, doing my deep dive in research, I saw that Barry had the Yucatan project. I didn't know that was specific to fourth years and residents. So I came in kind of like eager-eyed, and they were like, oh, however, we do have our Barry Without Borders program, which is our annual mission trip to the Bahamas, which is something that I am also very passionate about global health. And then aside from that, as mentioned, the crazy clinical diversity we have in some of these courses like podiatric medicine and internal medicine, those rare conditions we see in almost every Berry clinic because of the diversity we have in South Florida. And I felt like that was going to give the one up when it came to transitioning into residency in the future.
Very good. Thank you. Maddy, why did you choose the Barry University School of Podiatric Medicine?
Yeah, so I think a big thing to me, just like Malachi, is I am from Florida. I went to undergrad in Florida. And so being the only podiatry school in Florida was huge to me. I had never really visited Miami though. So it seemed like a new place without being too far from home. And after looking into their program, I know sports medicine, Dr. Lucido, he offers a fellowship. So I knew we would have some great sports med opportunities, and we really have this far. Like I've been able to enjoy through our sports med club doing many different things. Also, as Malachi mentioned, our clinics, we have many different clinics throughout Miami, and we are seeing a wide variety of cases. So I knew I would get great clinical training that I felt would prepare me to be able to get a great residency. And as well as those factors, Barry offers a combined DPM MBA degree. So I was very intrigued by that because I'm very interested in doing private practice. And whether the MBA is going to help me with private practice or just my own personal finances, I thought this program was amazing. It's 9 classes. You start it spring of your second year, and you take 2 classes a semester, one in the first 7 weeks, one in the second 7 weeks, and they're completely asynchronous. There are some due dates, but most of it is work at your own pace, all online. And a good amount of other students in my class are doing it with me. So it is really helpful. We're able to converse and work on topics together. And it really is giving me a background in business. And I know as someone interested in healthcare and someone wanting to be a doctor, we don't get taught anything with business. I've never taken a business class before until starting this program. And that is something that I talked to the program about before I started. I let them know, hey, I've never taken a business class. How am I just going to jump into a master's course? And they said that they fully understand that's how a lot of us are, not having taken any business classes. But it's only 9 courses. And as again, I said 7 weeks each. So I think I should be finishing up actually pretty soon. And it's for a great price. It's a whole master's degree discounted to or lower courses to 9 classes, as they said. And it's an additional I think it's 15,000. I'm just saying the price because that is an amazing price to get a master's degree. So it's the opportunity, do it while you're in school. Hasn't added too much more to my course load. And if you're able to do it and wanting to do it, I know I go to the APPM, the Podiatric Private Management meetings, and everyone is very for it and pro getting your MBA in terms of, again, just having somewhat of a background in business. So those are quite a few things that led me to Barry, and I'm very glad with my decision. I know it's awesome to meet students from other schools through APMSA, but I'm always very happy to represent Barry.
Fantastic. Thank you. Joe, final thoughts.
No, we so appreciate your time. Maybe if you can we'll go very quickly. One favorite activity outside of school that you like to do in Miami. We're going to start with Malachi.
Trying new food trucks with my classmates and friends.
Love it. All right, Justin.
Um, going to North Beach. I know typically some people go to South Beach, right? But North Beach is a little more quieter, but I'd like just going out to the beach, enjoying the sun. It's not as crowded, so.
Fantastic. All right, Maddy, how about you?
I really enjoy going on walks and runs and going to the beach and just exploring the outdoorsy in the area of Miami.
Fantastic. Well, we really appreciate everyone's time, and I'll give it back to you, Jeff.
Sounds good. Maddy, I appreciated the shout out to Dr. Lucido when I was in Miami. Dr. Lucido and I would go to Miami Heat games in LeBron's prime of his career. It was incredible. And then just a shout out for research. There's a scholarship there, the Robert Warner Wound Care Research Scholarship. Celia and I, my wife and I, have that endowed scholarship. So apply for that, and we'll certainly look at awarding another great Barry University student for that scholarship. So thank you. To all of our listeners out there, as always, we appreciate you listening on Spotify and Apple Podcast. Leave a couple comments if you'd like. And if you're watching on YouTube, by all means, become a subscriber. We are going to send each of you a Dean's Chat mug. You're going to need it in your studies and residency. Beverage of choice. Get you up in the morning or put you to bed at night. No problem. All right, everybody. Thanks so much and cheers. We will look forward to following your careers. See you all down the road. Bye-bye now.
Bye, everybody.